All right. So, thanks everyone for being here again. Sorry if I take pauses, just with my throat being under the weather and sinuses. And again, sorry too if you're listening to this lecture post recording. So today and this week, what we're going to talk about is regular expressions and what exactly they can do, and talk a little bit of the actual use of them, right? If you're also watching this video, I started a new channel within the Discord. You'll see materials. If you go into that channel, you'll see a couple different resources that I posted to help you out with this. If we look, the assignment's not due until, let's see, we have the 19th, so it's not due for a little bit. So you have plenty of time to go and look at it. So take your time, make sure that you go through the resources. If you have time, or if something comes up, of course, hit me up on Discord. Just as a reminder too, on the weekends, if you hit me up, I do have my 48-hour turnaround period, just because of doing, family things. But if I can't answer, I will. I know I had a few folks I was working with over the weekend, and I was gone I was at the fair. So anyways, long story short is, if you have issues still, feel free to reach out. I'll post some more materials too as the week keeps going. I mean, we're only on Tuesday as we're recording this, so just know that we're gonna have lots of stuff put out. So regular expressions, what are they? Well, the sequence of characters that defines a search pattern, right? Well, regex is, right? And a registry is, something that it's a pattern, and it's that you can look for within a sequence of a string. Like, think about it in the sequence of a string, right? And we know what a string is. Okay, a string is something that you assign to a variable. Okay, right. So if you were to call the string pattern, or the variable, you could call the variable pattern, and then have, whatever the variable is declared as. Well, you can have that a huge different bunch of patterns in it, right? A bunch of different characters, all that good stuff. Well, the RE library allows you to match a specific expression, right? Instead of looking for keywords. So it allows you to find a format of something instead of a keyword. So like, outside of emails, because obviously the assignment this week is really focusing on emails. For the folks that are here, is there anything else that you think that might be good to find an expression for, right? Like thinking about think about it as like a nomenclature, right? Like an @ symbol for an email. What's something else that you might want to think and look for? If anybody's got any ideas.
Web scraping, you could do it for logs.
What about with logs? Like that's some cyber-esque stuff. Like, what about with logs? I mean, so is
Firewall
web scraping.
logs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Nothing else is coming up right now.
No, I mean, that's good, right? You might want to. What about like with trying to find like something that's like an anomaly from a pattern of, like, I don't know, signatures? Like you're talking about firewalls, right? Like, or just something at layer 4 there. What if you're trying to find you know some malware that might be trying to come inside of your system, like intruding into your systems, right? And you have that heuristic analysis, right, where it's like, oh, I know this signature, I know this signature, I know this signature, block, block, block. But what about when it's trying to find something that slightly deviates from it, right? A slight permutation of it, right? It might be good to have an expression, because what it's going to do is, if it's just trying to find an exact match, it's not going to do anything, right? If, like, let's say that a malware signature is 1111, okay? Obviously, it's not going to be, because it's going to be a lot longer than that. But let's say a malware signature is 11111, and you have antivirus, whatever some kind of protection on your whether it's host-based, network-based, whatever it is, that's protecting your systems, your hosts, your assets from this malware. But then let's say, okay, somebody's trying to get into your system, like, oh, they're just using this database, or they're using this type of protection, which is going to call these signatures from whatever database it is. And I can just, make a small permutation or a change to this malware, and it will change that signature from like 11111 to 21111, right? If you're trying to do something and you're trying to look for an exact specific match, you're not going to find that, right? But if you use an expression format instead, you'll be able to find it, right? Because it's going to look for those key patterns, right? Hence the word pattern right here. It's going to search for patterns instead of a keyword, right? So good answer. Anybody else got any other ones that they might think of? If you don't, it's perfectly fine. But wanted to see if anybody else had any other ideas. So, right. So as we can see here, right, you import re, or regular expression. Okay, we declare our variable. This is, and then you have a couple different symbols, is $, and blah blah, at a string. Okay, so then we print out that variable. Okay, and so then what it's going to do is you're going to say this. You're going to declare another variable that's going to go through. It's going to substitute, and it's going to go through A through Z capitalized and A through Z lowercase, and then also a couple different special characters. And it's going to look for basically a pattern in there that's going to look for real words, right? Because if you think about it, right, it's going through A through Z, A through Z. It's going to give you a space, and then we're declaring essentially what we're doing within this method of the function here is we're substituting it, and we're going to say, okay, what's inside of S that matches inside of here. Okay. Now think about that, right? Like really think about that in the sense of, excuse me, in the sense of if you're trying to search for something, if you're trying to find an exact match and you're like, okay, well, I got to find something that has string in it, right? That's a pretty common word, okay? And then it printed out only things with string in it. Well, what if you needed this as a string, right? Or what if you just needed just the words, right? Like, anybody in here ever like dissected a Wireshark packet? I'm hoping so, right? We're computer
A bit,
science students.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I hear yes, yes, yes. Awesome.
For
How could this help?
for the format for the ACAC, I think I've seen like a bunch of those online, like you just copy and print them because there's a lot of combinations of that thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of combinations. A lot of combinations.
Okay.
But and then Francisco said too, since his mic's not working, removed sensitive information before writing it to log it to disk, right? So you can use it to scrub application logs. That's good, right? So we don't want PII loaded on disk, right? Or hopefully, it's and substituted and put in like some kind of encrypted memory. So there's a lot of different things that we can do with it, right? A lot of different things. So substitutes any characters not in the set of A or Z or with right in a single space. Okay. Another one here, right? So again, we're just making a string, as we can see. We're looking for that. And then we can create an email pattern. And by the way, if you're looking for anything like this, like you can go to python.com and go look at the RE library, and you can find all of these patterns. In fact, I will write that down. I'm gonna write it down right now to post that into the materials chat within our Discord. And you guys are all, Ricardo, I know you're on the Discord. I got an email earlier this week from a student that missed the Discord link. You guys are on the Discord, right? I know you are, Ricardo. But Brian and Francisco, you guys are in the Discord, hopefully, yes?
Yeah.
Yep, awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, just making sure because I had it on the brain. And there's a lot of students. I want to make sure you guys were. So I'll make sure to post that so you guys can look at it. Because it's full of a lot of good information. And patterns. Anybody else think about like maybe where else you can find like these patterns? Because again, we want to automate things, right, folks? Like we don't want to like, we're here to like, the point of this class is to automate your functionality of whatever it is that you're doing with your work. And we don't, there's a saying of work smarter, not harder. And yes, you need to understand how it works, but like with things like this, right, you want to make sure that you understand, like you can find the pattern, but like you can just go find a pattern and that's going to be fine, right? Like you don't have to memorize this. But where else, if like outside of going to the actual library like python.org, where else do you think you could find something like this? Probably go to GitHub. I guarantee there's some stuff in GitHub.
Yeah, Stack Overflow too.
Yeah, Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is a good place. I like to go to I mean, Brian, could you think like why, like what's the benefits of going to GitHub versus Stack Overflow? Just curious, because my brain would go to GitHub first.
GitHub, yeah, I'd go there first, but GitHub's like got more involvement and the files are there if you need them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like Stack Overflow is just like a blog, you know?
Yeah. And the other thing is too, right, is like, let's say that, you're doing something, you're creating some code and you're like, man, it's going to take me a while to write out this, right? Like it's obviously not going to take you a long time to write out 6 different lines of code, but let's say we're building a huge application, right? And it's going to be calling lots of different things. And you're like, man, I don't know all these patterns I got to load into. The nice thing too is that you can just do a pull request from that GitHub, from whatever the GitHub is. And you can do a pull request and have it either one, store it within your application library, or 2, you can have it to where it does a pull from that GitHub when the application is running. So that way you don't have to, load it in. Like if there's like thousands of patterns, right, that could make it a little bit more difficult. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, cool. You could just go ahead and find it. So that's the reason why I like GitHub in that sense. But like, again, GitHub is not the best place for troubleshooting. Like, right, if you need to figure out something, Stack Overflow is probably going to be your best friend. Not saying GitHub doesn't have that. There is some GitHub stuff out there, but yeah, like you mentioned, like it's the forums of Stack Overflow that make everything much better. So, so you have RE compile, right? So it's going to return any kind of pattern objects, right? And then it's going to write them out as a string. And then we're declaring email list as a variable. Okay, so epat is now the variable that's being declared from here, right? And essentially what we're doing, remember, is we're using the regular expression library. The method is compile to return any objects found, okay? And then email list is going to be epat and then find all, okay, with an S. So essentially what that is saying is like, this is the new variable. Look at this. So look at all the objects and find all the objects within here that match this pattern, which is an email pattern, and then print them out. Okay, and that's it. And that's going to print out the email patterns. And then let's see. Yeah, like I said, that's it for that. So let me, I know y'all want to see the good stuff and walk over some of the assignment for this week. Go ahead and stop sharing for just a second. All right, so we got our fresh new ID here, right? So as always, I'm going to show you guys enough to get you started, okay? So the first thing that you're going to want to do, you're going to want to import RE, okay? Of course, now it's giving me that issue, but I'm not really too worried about my Python interpreter because I don't need it. I'm just going to walk you through it so that you can do it. For this too, you'll want to do your pre-tables, but not really worried. So you'll want to you'll import those. So we know already how that works, right? Import pre-table, or I'm sorry, from pre-table, import pre-table. From pre-table, import pretty table. Okay. And then I already, like I mentioned, I posted the expressions that you'll need. So there's your expressions are your patterns. Okay. So you have EPAT, WPAT, UPAT. Okay. Next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have something that's going to hold results or stuffs, right? So what we have to do, we need to, we have our, sorry, emails pattern. Okay. It's going to be our word pattern and our URL pattern because we're going to be looking for URLs as well, right? So you want to make an email dictionary. Okay. You're going to close that off. And then I'm going to kind of cheat here a little bit. And I'm going to put, we'll call this, oops, word dictionary. We'll call this URL dictionary. Okay. So now we have something that we can store things into. Okay. Then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to have something that can read. Okay. Can read a binary file because you have to read from a binary file. We're going to we need to set our chunk size as we learned in one of the previous assignments. Okay. I can't type today or most days. So I know it's 1024. And it's 1024. Okay. And then we'll set chunk count to 0 because then we can throw that into a loop, right? We always wanted to start at 0. And why don't we start it at 1? Because everything in a computer starts at 0. Okay. So from here, we're just going to we're going to go through a loop, right? So I would recommend doing a while loop or but what we need to do first, before we even get into that loop, is we need to be able to open the file. Okay, that's pretty important. So you can say with open, and then you would put whatever your file is, right? And then we want to be able to read it. And then we'll say with open, we'll say binary files. Okay. There we go. So we've opened the file, started its indentation. So while true, okay, because everything should be true, hopefully. We need to make sure that it can, we can redeclare the chunk of bytes. So we'll do binary files, and then we need to read. We need to read the chunk size, right? Make sure that we're not going to be doing anything that's going to go crazy. And so now that we've declared chunk, because now we're reading from the chunk, we're going to essentially be reading from the file. We're going to say if chunk, and then we need to start reading from from here. Okay. Remember how we just looked a minute ago when we were looking for objects, right? You declare your variable as whatever this variable is, and then also find all. And then you're going to look in chunk. Okay. And we've already declared chunk here, and chunk is reading from up here. Okay. And it's opening this. Let's remember too, we're opening a file. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll declare emails, and we'll do EPAT for pattern, which we already declared up here, right? And then we need to do our find all, and we need to do chunk. And then we're just going to copy and paste this, and okay. And we'll do, what's the next one? We'll do words, which will be W. And then we'll do URLs, which will be U. Okay. Don't worry that that's red. It doesn't know what it's doing with its life right now. All right. So now we got to go through the iterations, right? We have to do, what kind of loop do we use to go through an iteration of something? Like to just keep going through it.
For loop.
Or a while loop.
Yeah, well, a while loop will go like go through
Infinite.
something as long as it is true, right? But a for loop is going to go through it until we hit what we need to, right? So like we'll go.
I thought while was more for like when you wanted to keep running and never stop.
Yeah, so something like what has long as like whatever it is that, I mean, it's in the literal definition, right? Like whatever you're going through, like iterating through, if as long as that constant remains true, right? It's going to keep going, right?
When you don't know when it's gonna stop, like when you have random stuff, or essentially it's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So for here, okay, and I'm gonna again, this is just how I would do it if in the real world. So here we're gonna go and we're going to do we're gonna go start our for loop. I'm gonna copy and paste it after I do the other ones, or essentially just like I'll probably just let you guys figure it out because you can kind of get the hint. So for each email, we're just going to declare each email, right? Has emails, right? We declared it emails. Yep. So as emails, okay. We're going to look at each email and we need to redeclare that. We're going to make everything lowercase because it's just easier to read, right? I mean, read, correct. Little nerd, like little computer joke there. So yeah, now that we're gonna go for each email within this email file, right, which is declared right here. It's already been declared. So now we're like saying, okay, now we're saying this has got stuff in it for each email. Oh, sorry, not as in. I did that just out of habit. For each email, so for each string, whatever inside of here, we're going to now say, okay, each email needs to be lowercase because that's going to be easier to find and go through, right, than having things that are, uppercase, lowercase, because you never know, right? Like somebody might store their emails in camel case or whatever they want to do, and it might have different capitalizations and things. It's just easier to make everything lowercase and then search for key expressions. We're going to declare value and we'll say email dictionary. Okay. Make that a list for each email. Oops, I should say equal, not minus. So value for that. So we're going to say try, and we're going to say, so let's try to make a list out of each email, and we're going to declare that as value. Okay. And then what we're going to do is say value plus, I mean, this is the typical of like going through each one, right? Plus equals 1. And then email, sorry. Email dictionary. We're going to pass each email again, literally just reiterating through it. Okay. Equals value. So literally just going through it, stepping through it. Okay. If we get an issue, we just say accept email. Oops. Get this. There we go. Email each email equals 1. Okay. So a simple, a very straightforward try statement within a for loop. This is really straightforward. Okay. Just going through the iteration, seeing what it can find. And if it unless it doesn't find it, then it just stops. So you're going to do that 3 times, right? I would just recommend copying and pasting this code and printing it out 3 times. and changing the variables to fit each one of these variables, okay? It's literally all you got to do. So you're going to go through that, and then you're going to want to, and again, sorry if the indentation kind of goes a little wonky. So from there, we're going to do our chunk count is going to be plus equals 1, because we're going to keep adding. And then you would print out, you need to print out something that talked about what chunk count was. Okay, so you can print out your own thing, right? But you want to print out something that states that. And then, but if you can't do that, you always just do your typical break. Okay, and once it breaks, it's going to know that it's done. Okay, and then from there, you're going to want to print out your pretty table. Okay, so you can declare whatever variable you want and sort it out. We did pretty tables last week, so hopefully, and previous weeks. So as we know, when you're declaring those, what you're going to want to do is put them inside of a list, right? And you can use that pretty table library. Okay. And you're just going to want to be able to print out whatever rows it is. Okay. And honestly, folks, like, just reuse the code that you've used in previous assignments and just change it. Like, you can do it, because you're just going to want to use like the get string method. Okay, that is going to pull whatever information it is into whatever part of the table it is, just like you've done before. You literally just copy and paste that and change it to where you want it to have your URLs, your words, and your emails. Okay. And that's really it, right? And I know this may seem like a lot. I'm telling you, copy and paste this, change it to what you got to do, and then print it out into the format that it needs to be printed out. And you guys already have that code. You already have that code on hand. So just change it. That's all you got to do to fit.
What file are we pulling?
Good question. So you should have in here. So the question is, what file is being pulled? You have, if you look within the within week 5, you'll see that there's a mem. It's called mem, and it's just a raw file, and you're reading from that file. So that's a good question. Thank you, Ricardo.
Okay.
Yeah. So it says it in the assignment as well. So you'll be reading from the mem file. So.
All right, good to know.
Yeah. If you heard a big old Slack message. So with that being said, that's the assignment for this week. Like I said, I know it might seem like a lot. You should have roughly, I would say, maybe, I mean, how many lines of code did we write? If I had to guess, I'm gonna just kind of like give a ballpark, but I gotta eye it really quick. You'll probably have around 80 lines of code. And while I know that may sound like a lot, a lot of it is copy and pasting and just changing some of the variables to fit what you gotta need it. Like, as long as you do what I just showed you and then copy and paste that, and then take the information you have from your pretty tables, change those variables up to fit the variables with inside of your own program, you're going to be golden. So no worries there. So with that being said, that's all I got for this evening. Like I said, if you guys have, like, since everyone's on the Discord, if you're watching this, please, and you're not on the Discord, please let me know ASAP. I thought everyone was in the Discord, and we're in week 5, and granted, we still have a long time to go, but that's where the main bread and butter of communication is for this. So yeah, but I did post out some things within the materials section that I created this evening for you guys. So if, take a look at those when you're looking at, how to use regular expressions. It'll hopefully really help you out. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Discord. Again, if I don't answer, it's not because if I don't answer right away, or if I step away, if we're in the middle of a conversation and something happens, it's just because I, have something going on. But I do try to be as streamlined with it as I can. So Yeah, that's all I got for this evening. Does anybody here have any questions or anything?
I want to ask you for some help on a past week code that I couldn't figure out for the invoking.
Okay. Brian or Francisco, you folks have anything?
Nothing pertaining to this. I'll shoot you an email probably tomorrow.
Okay. If you can you can you shoot me a Discord, or does it need to go? Would you prefer to go through email if it needs to go through email?
I'll do Discord. That's fine.
Okay, cool.
Appreciate it, man.
Yep. Thanks, Brian. Have a good one.
You too.
Yeah, nothing for me. So
All right.
I'm good.
No worries, man. All right. Sounds good. Have a good one, sir.
You too. Bye.